Mr. Garrison, as he is really helping us to move to the next level. I have been trying to fill in his shoes, and I do not have the technical background, but we are very happy to have him aboard. So, okay, we are going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, 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 everyone. If you are not on mute, if you can please put yourself on mute. I do hear some background noise that makes it a little difficult. So if you are not on mute, please go on mute. Unless we're doing question and answers, then of course I'll ask you to come off mute and ask your question. The first thing we're going to do is I'm going to hand it over to Kevin Cataldo, who we are so grateful who put on the 3 days. I was so happy to see so many folks out last week. I was there 2 of the days and got to meet some of the folks, as were our grant managers, Mr. Garrison, to meet some of our grantees in person. So that was awesome. But we really thank Kevin and his colleague Renee for pulling that together. And I want him to just give us a update. I know it's been now a week since most of us went through the PQA training, but just a reminder of what the next steps are. So Kevin, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Shanna. And just side note, with us that are in the office, if we can all look me on mute, because I'm getting like a lot of feedback from us too. Sorry. Thanks. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. Last week was a lot of days, a lot of folks that attended the PQA Basics workshop. I hope that you found value and add value for your programs as we move forward in our journey this year, and continuing to improve our quality programming for the school age and youth that we serve here in the District of Columbia. So part of your grant agreement, of course, was that you would have a representative attend the 1 day, which was a full day last week, PQA Basics workshop. So that part, you've now made that commitment and you are in compliance in that regard. If you were not able to attend the PQA Basics workshop, I highly recommend reaching out to your grant management specialist. There is a online PQA Basics version that they can share with you. The cost would be $150, and that would be monies that you would need to take out of from your grants overall. Second step then is we're on the journey now of all of the grantees working on training their staff with what they call the Take It Home resources. If you look within your guidebook, the PQA Basics guidebook, that information is in there. It'll also give you the website to be able to pull down all of those resources, including a PowerPoint presentation with notes that you can utilize in a staff training as well. So then the rest of your staff will also understand better about the program quality assessment and what a self-assessment is and why we're doing this work as well. Again, I also sent that all of those resources to the grant management specialist today. So if you're unable to locate that information, feel free to reach out to your specific grant management specialist, and I know they'll be happy to share that information with you as well. You have until, unless you're in the quality cohort, and I want to thank a lot of our grantees. Last year, we had 18 program sites that participated in the quality cohort. Renee must have done a great selling job this year because we are literally over 40 plus program sites that are going to participate in the quality cohort this year. So I'm extremely happy about that. I can guarantee you Mayor Bowser is going to be excited about that because it's one of my key performance indicator goals, and you guys have helped me exceed that goal for this year. So thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. So there's going to be 2 components on that one. If you're not going to participate in the quality cohort, you still need to, of course, complete a self-assessment. And typically, as like Porter, who was our facilitator from YCART, explained, it's good to have at least 3 team members, not all administrators, that would become part of the self-assessment team. Each of those individuals would take the tool, the PQA tool, go in to observe, let's say, a 1 hour block of programming. It doesn't have to be the same hour, and it's actually better not to do the same hour, and it's also better to do different teachers as well, in different classrooms. And then once that is completed by each one of your self-assessment team members, then you're going to come together for a consensus meeting, go over each of the domains, go over each of the indicators, and then come to an agreement on where you score. Is it a 1, is it a 3, or is it a 5 on each of those indicators? That will become then your full PQA self-assessment that'll be completed. And then we did send links out, and your grant management specialist has the links as well, where you can actually complete the self-assessment online, instead of trying to handwrite everything and then, PDF, or not PDF, but like faxing it to us and scanning and all that. So hopefully that'll help make it a little bit more simplified for you. And then you have until March 29th to finalize the self-assessment, input it into the Google Forms that we created. That's the exact same thing as the paper tool of the PQA. And when you hit submit, that will come to Renee and I, and then we'll notify your grant management specialist that it's been completed. And then you've met those requirements this year around the PQA grant requirements for that mandatory specific. If you are in the quality cohort, you actually have more time to complete your self-assessment, and you're also going to have one of my team members coming out that's certified to conduct the external assessment as well. You've already received an email from Renee if you are going to be in the quality cohort, welcoming you and providing you additional information. And next week on February the 15th, there is a training for those in the quality cohort to go over what we call the scores reporter training, which is the white card database where your self-assessment scores will be input and your external assessment scores will be input as well. So you have a little bit more of a cushion of time to complete that if you've agreed to become part of the quality cohort. All right, it's a lot of information. I'm going to pause for a second and see if there are any questions for me in regards to all of what I just said. And feel free to just come off mute if you need to, or you can put it in the chat.
Yeah. Good afternoon. Carlton McGee, Administrative Director over at Eco Academy, OST.
Hi.
PCS. How you all doing?
I'm good, thanks.
You mentioned that there is a training for those that are in the quality cohort group on the 15th. What's the time for that training?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah. And Renee's going to send out a registration link later today. You'll get that. But I believe we set it up for 10 o'clock in the morning, and it's just a 1-hour training.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. And welcome to the cohort. I'm happy to have you guys. Great. I must have done a good job. I don't hear any other questions for me. So Shannon, I'll pass it back to you, and I'll be on for the hour for the office hours if you guys do have any other questions. Thanks, Shanna.
Thank you, Kevin. And I just want to make sure to regurgitate that the PQA training was a requirement. So if your organization, for by any chance, and I think we had the vast majority were there, we had 3 full days. But if you didn't for some reason, you do want to follow up with your grant manager and get the link for the online training in order to meet compliancy in that area, because not only is the training required, but that program self-assessment is required of all grantees. And so you'll need the training to know how to do that. So just want to remind everyone of that. Okay, I think we're going to move forward to the progress report. Oh, actually, before I do that, because I saw at least one of our new grantees for MADC. If you are a new grantee, you don't have an existing grant, a lot of the information, I'm looking at you, Neighborhood Association Corporation. A lot of the information covered today will be things you will eventually need to know.
Close your eyes and do not open them again, and do not talk again.
Okay, is that Miss Jackie?
Oh, I'm over
Somebody,
here babysitting, laying down the law, honey. Okay. Sorry, I didn't know my mic was on. I'll go on mute. Sorry.
okay, no problem. She is laying down the law. Okay. How funny. Okay. What was I saying? Um, oh, so a lot of this, the program quality assessment, MADC grantees won't have to do until next year because they're brand new. And then also we're going to talk about the progress reports. Well, you will have for next quarter, but you don't have currently now. So up to you if you want to stay on and hear the information shared, but just wanted to let you know that a lot of what we're covering today isn't immediately pertaining to you. With that, I am going to jump into the progress reports because those came out this week, and this is a brand new function in Cityspan, and I know there's a lot of questions about what is being presented. Sorry about that. I meant to share, but when I mute. So I'm going to pull up Cityspan. Mark, can you let me know if you can see my screen?
Yep, it is visible, Shanna.
Okay, so what we have here is the sample progress report. And the way I got there is by going over into the left-hand menu and clicking on progress reports. When you go there, you'll see this screen. So you're going to click on the first link, which is your progress report. And we're going to update this up here. It says October through January. This is October 1 through January 25th. So if you received this, then went and did some updates into your system, you won't see the live updates. This is for what was achieved through January 25th, which was the end of the second academic quarter. We're aligning our quarters with, and I know we have some charter schools being served, but we're aligning it with the DCPS academic calendar. So January 25th was the last day for the data that is in your combined progress report for quarter 1 and quarter 2. So what you see here is your proposed days of programming and numbers of hours, your proposed number of youth to be served, your enrollment by grade ward, and then your program attendance. So let's talk about these proposed versus actual. What we have realized is we need to do an update. Because what happened is the proposed days of programming is across sites. So if you are a grantee that has multiple sites, you may have over 365 days of programming because it's adding up the days across each of your 8 sites, right? So you say, oh my gosh, it has 785 days of programming. There's not that many days in a year. Again, that's adding up across sites, but that's not happening in your actual days of programming. So your numbers are very off. So what we're going to do, and we've just met with Cityspan, they're going to go back and they're going to break it down, just like you see down here for your enrollment by site 1, 2, and 3. And it has your site names, of course, but for this demo, they're going to do it the same way for your program days and hours. So this feeds from your grant application and then your agreement. You were able to update that site information before you sign the agreement. It's going to roll over so that site 1, the total number of days based upon the calendar that you put in, and the total number of hours based upon the schedule that you put in is what will be demonstrated for your program days and hours. And then you'll have that same breakdown, just like you have here for your actuals. Okay, so you're going to see an update next week to the progress report that is going to take these days and hours and make them much more clear because it's going to be broken down by site. However, if you only have one site, this should not be an issue, right? You're going to have it's already your total proposed days compared to your actual days. Now, what happens if you have a 0 here? That means that you may have youth enrolled, but you haven't taken any attendance. The days and hours do not show up as actual days and hours if you had no children or youth in attendance. So if you have not taken attendance, you're not going to see any total days or total hours. And of course, your attendance down here will show a 0% attendance as well. So what this says to you is, oh, I need to go in and enter my attendance, right? So this is a snapshot in time. With that, you're not going to have met your compliancy for your total days and hours because we're only about halfway through the year. So depending on when your program start date was, if it was October 1 or October 15th or even November 1, hopefully you started within that first month, but you're going to then see your percentage of completion, and you're going to want to, make sure that your actual hours and numbers are reflective of that time frame. To be met, if you click on this I over here, whenever you see the I, that's just the informational. It's not showing. It's not wanting to say. There you go. It's if it's 90% or greater. So we don't make you achieve the full 100% of what you propose, but we do want you to be at 90% or greater. So that's where it will say, and that will be by your fourth quarter, because quarter 3 and quarter 4, and for year rounds, your final one will be your actual summer report, are cumulative. They all are from October 1 through that end quarter date, end of quarter 3, end of quarter 4, end of summer programming, that they're cumulative. So you're going to want to have these days and hours met across sites to be compliant by the end of the year. Okay, so this is static. And then the youth enrolled, however, is not. It is not progressive, right? You should really be serving your total number of youth or close to it already. So we're halfway through the year. If you propose to serve 100 youth and you only have 18 youth, that's a concern. If you have 100, propose to serve 100 youth and you have 90 or more, because again, it's at 90% or greater, then we're going to, in your compliancy, because we monitor your compliancy based on this, we're going to say that you've met your enrollment compliancy. However, if you are below 90 for your actual number of youth served, then you're not in compliance. However, if you recruit and you get to that point by your quarter 3, then you will be in compliance, right? So we track it by across the quarters, and we will check to make sure if you weren't in compliance by the previous quarter that you are by the next. In addition, we have executive reports that we run that shows us at any point in time. So we're going to take a look at your progress report, and we're going to say, okay, this organization needs to get their attendance in, and we're going to be working with you across the months, checking regularly to see that you're getting your attendance in, so that we don't have to wait until next quarter to say, hey, you still don't have your attendance in. So you'll hear from your your grant management specialist throughout from this point forward to help you to get your compliancy met. Okay. So then these others just kind of break it down by grade level and by ward. What you don't see here that will also be visible in future reports, we are integrating our data systems, you may have heard us say, with Aussie, so that we can report what percentage are African American, what percentage are at risk, what percentage are English learners, so it does include race and ethnicity, although that isn't you didn't receive priority points. So when I reference African American or Hispanic or whatever, but those other components that you said you were going to serve, it's going to say you propose to serve, 26 to 50% students that are English learners. And then it's going to tell you your actual based upon the data that we receive from Aussie. That's why providing the school name, the additional data points that we needed, and the FERPA waivers are so important, is so that we can obtain that information from Aussie to be able to demonstrate not only the aggregate number to our stakeholders of what percentage of students with disabilities, for example, that we're serving across our grantees, but so for you to see what percentage of your youth you're actually serving. And I know this year it was kind of hard to make that prediction because you don't know who's going to enroll. Again, we try to ensure that it's within like a 10%. but that's going to give you more information on who you're actually serving and perhaps where you need to do recruitment, targeted recruitment. Either this year or in future years. So, and then the rest of this, I think, is pretty self-explanatory in regards to just kind of breaking it down, like I mentioned, by site, and your average weekly attendance is across your sites. You want to have 85%. So if you have 100 youth enrolled, 85 of those youth, because you look over here at this eye, it's going to tell you 85% or greater. Your average weekly attendance is based upon attending one time a week. So that means if you have 100 youth enrolled, you want 85 of those youth to attend at least once a week to meet average weekly attendance of 85%. And then that's for 1 week. And then the compilation across all of the weeks gives you your weekly attendance. So then we break it down by site. So you can come down and be like, oh, okay, we're doing great at site 3, but at site 1, our attendance has issues. So you, again, know really where to target your efforts. I'm going to stop there. I'm going to pause and ask if there's any questions as it relates. And I just in relation to this form, not to changing, because I'm going to next talk about, well, what if we need to add a site, or what if there needs to be changes to our numbers? So that's going to be the amendment process. But just in regards to anything I've said here and understanding the automated numbers that are populated, do we have any questions?
Hi, I have a question.
Yes.
This is Holland from Levine. I put it in the chat and it seems like some other people have the same question.
Okay.
With the number of youth served, we're planning to serve additional youth in our summer program at Camp Levine.
Mm-hmm.
So right now it's looking like we're not meeting that total, but we know we'll have more youth coming in the summer, and that's still within the grant period. So I just wanted to clarify if that's going to be a red flag for this report.
No, that's actually a very good point, and I'm glad you brought that up, Holland, because I did say, hey, you want to be, meeting your enrollment at this point, or you need to recruit. But if you're a year-round program and you know that you're serving additional youth that are not already in your program, we had a grantee. Oh gosh, was it anyway, I won't call it out, but anyway, I was going to direct this to you. But so what happens is if you have, say, 60 youth that you're serving in the school year and an additional 20 youth in the summer, I think it was Many Languages, One Voice. This is you that I'm responding to. So you had 60 kids that you're serving in a school year, you have 20 in the summer. So your proposed number of youth were 80. Right? But you're only serving at 60 right now, so it says unmet. That's okay. You're going to have through the end of summer to meet that. So if you are a year-round grantee who is serving additional youth, a lot of our sites serve the same kids over the summer, right? So it's 80 kids across the school year. Of that, 20 of them will stay for the summer program. But if they are new kids that you are enrolling over the summer, then yes, you have until the final compliancy report doesn't come out until the end of the year. So in essence, you have until the end of your grant period to meet all of these measures. So if your attendance is down, any of these things, as long as by the end of the year you can get these things up, you will have met compliancy in each of these areas. Does that help, Holland?
Yes, thank you.
Hi, I had a question related to that as well, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course.
I'm Jessica Luskin from Sitar Arts Center, and we're in the same position as a year-round grantee. I'm curious if when we are enrolling new youth that either start for our spring or summer, basically, do we need to keep all the youth active, their status active, for them to be counted towards this actual number of youth served, and then enrolled into the program semester, which is how we have it set up, even if they maybe don't continue with us from school year to summer? Like, we wouldn't, I forget if it's active or deactive, or what the when you are submitted, unsubmitted, their account. I'm just curious, do we just keep them active throughout the semester, even though they might not be in the summer program, but they were in school year, so they end up in this actual number of youth served on our progress report?
That's a very good question, Jessica. As long as the student has attended at least one day of your program, they will be considered an actual number of youth throughout the program period. I know like 21st Century Grants, you need to attend 30 days or more in order to be considered a regularly occurring youth. So that's kind of the federal guidelines. We have not adopted that. As long as your student attended one day during the program for our progress reports, they will be considered an actual number of youth served. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
All right, no problem. I see Erwin's hand up.
Yes, hi. So youth that we had in our previous programs, there's not a need to put them back in a system. We just pull them over for our current programming year. Is that correct?
Yes, but you have to submit them. And you have to go back and update. So the thing is, remember when I talked about being able to pull all that additional demographic data on the students? There's additional information required this year. So you have to go in and make sure like you can roll them over and they're there but they're not enrolled yet. You have to go in officially, right? They're there, but you have to go in, add the additional, anything that has a red asterisk that needs to be included in order to then hit submit. And then you have to add them to an actual activity. Your activity can be, counseling, STEM, whatever, or it can just be general attendance. You don't have to break it down for a program that's, or activity, I should say. You don't have to break it down by activity. That's up to each grantee how they want to track attendance. You can just create an activity called general attendance. So you need to not only submit them, but you then have to add them to an actual activity for them to show up as being an enrolled youth. So if you're seeing a 0, that might be why, because you haven't finished that process.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Of course. Kelly.
Hi, Shannon. I have a question. And this goes back to if we have a site that for whatever reason during the program year, we stop working with that site, but we already have the children, on our roster, we should leave that site on so that we can keep those numbers for the purpose of the grant year, correct?
Yes, you would not want to remove that. You can, and we're going to talk about that in just a second, that we're going to add sites and I know a couple organizations have been waiting. We've been trying to get the amendment function up and going, but we're going to circumvene that and be able to just add sites, and I'm going to get to that in a second. But if you're deleting sites in which you already had services, or you're no longer offering programming at a site, you do not want to delete that site because you have active youth and programming hours taking place there, right? And you would delete that along with the site. So keep it there, add a new site if you need to.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course. I think I saw someone else's hand go up, or maybe I answered the question and it went down. Oh, RJ.
RJ Mendez.
Yeah, mine is still up. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks so much for taking my question. In the program description, it says that 75% of the students who are economically disadvantaged are, as demonstrated by eligibility of TANF, SNAP, or free and reduced price meals. The 75% to 100% of the students. How is that? Are we responsible for tracking that information any way that we want to, or is there a specific form like the CSVG form that the parents have to fill out?
Good question, RJ. So I had mentioned that this progress report is going to continue to grow. across the quarters and probably next year, where we want everything to be visible that's in there. Who's your mandated reporter? Are your staff background checks all complete? Everything, that we can automate so that we're not having to check across tabs as organizations and grant managers, we will continue to work on. And one of the things that we're still working on is the integration of our data management system, Cityspan, with OSSI's. And OSSI's, that's why we needed that additional data on the students, such as the school that they go to, their grade, because that helps them to identify the student. And then they will be able to match that student and then automatically upload that demographic information into our system. So future progress reports, you'll be able to see, let's see where it says like the ward, enrollment by ward. We'll also see like enrollment at risk percentage enrolled,
Correct.
EL. And so that it will all come from documents that DCPS and OSSI already have. You do not have to track that.
Okay, so we don't have to have parents fill out a separate form.
No, the only thing that we need from the parents is the FERPA waiver. So that gives us the ability to obtain that data as long as you mark on there, and that's another addition, Erwin, that you have to check in order for your student to be enrolled and submitted is there a FERPA waiver on file? Because that's going to say to us that we can obtain, that OSSI can download that. The systems will then know that they can obtain that information on that student for reporting purposes.
Thanks so much for answering my question. I came in a little late, so I might have missed that.
No problem at all. Vancia.
Hi, Shanna. I have a question about hours, and I don't know if this is where it is. I heard you say that as long as by the end you are in compliance, it's okay if, for example, I know that like the intention was like, yep, 8 hours provided for all the students. And then there may have been things where like, oh, that's actually so much more difficult than anticipated. And as long as it's in by the end, it sounds like that's okay. But I do have I guess my question is, where is there flexibility? I know that this year a lot of programs tried to increase the the touch points with students to make those 8 hours, and we knew that this was going to be a lot of trial, error, experimenting. What time could work, what doesn't? A lot more error than success. But I am interested in knowing what kind of flexibility. It sounded like the number served is definitely the this is where it should be. But I guess I'm interested in what the grace/flexibility will look like by the end of the year for hours, due to the increased trialing that I think a lot of organizations did this year.
Yeah, so once we're able to look at that across all of the grantees, that will give us a better sense. As we said, this is kind of a learning year. And so we want to be able to say, hey, what percentage of our grantees were able to actually meet compliancy? And that will help us in understanding how flexible we need to be. Because if it is something that, you've made the effort, but it is just, it's clear that many of our grantees just weren't able to meet that, then we're going to provide more flexibility than if it's just a one or two organizations that just weren't able to meet those goals. Then we'll work with you on a more one-on-one basis. And our compliancy measures or our risk rating at the end of the program year is not an end all be all, right? We still want you to be successful. So it's going to be like, okay, if it's a couple organizations and we see that for the most part people have been able to do this, then that helps us to target support for you. And we'll work with you to say, okay, let's figure out what's worked across the other organizations and see if we can maybe implement some of that. And that goes really for any compliancy areas. Again, our office is we don't want to checklist and fund organizations that are doing well and then write off those that are struggling. We want to use these compliancy measures to say, okay, where is support needed and how can we better support you? Now, if we provided support and there continues to be no effort towards, impacting change or continuous improvement, then that shows to us if you're high risk for year over year over year with no effort, then you may not be an organization that we want to continue to fund. But more than anything, it just really helps us to know how to better support you in a intentional and meaningful way.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Yes, of course. Okay, I don't see any other questions, so I think I'm going to move on to the amendment process.
Because like we need to give our CFEs guidance what to do. I said, that's fine. Keep doing what you're doing. I'm not trying to stop what you need to do to give.
Okay, sorry about that. I think we had someone trying to run programming or administer their supports to their staff, which is what we do. We're all about multitasking in this world. Okay, so I'm trying to think here. Okay, so the amendment process. What we have decided. I'm trying to think what to address first. The sites. If you need to add a site, what I would like you to do is to email Learn24data at dc.gov, our data team, and they're going to work to unlock the sites form to allow you to add a site. Now, this is not going to help for Q1 because, like I said, this is a certain set up to a certain date. It's not live. So you're not going to be able to see any adjustments. But we want you to be able to, Cityspan is working with us to get as much done as we can possibly throw at them. But unfortunately, a lot of this stuff just takes a lot more time than we expected. And so the amendment hopefully we'll be ready next week. But in the meantime, we want you to just let us know. And in hindsight, I wish we would have done this months ago if I had known how long it would take. But just send an email to Learn24data at dc.gov, and they're going to go in and unlock the program site form so that you can add a site. Because what has happened is for, organizations that have a new site and it hasn't been added, you're not able to enroll your youth at that site or take attendance. And so that may be skewing your number of program hours, days, and youth served in your progress report. So we're going to go ahead and resolve that issue on the back end. Now, the amendment will be coming out. I keep saying it will be coming out. I'm learning not to establish exact timeframes, but we hope that will be available next week. And then that is where, if there are any other adjustments that you would like to make to programming, that you can request an amendment. So you will go in, and it will be on the left side menu, just, as you see the progress report, you'll be able to request the amendment. It may be changes. You may see the number of youth. If you have a really strong justification for needing to decrease the number of youth or your program hours, if it's still within, if you still meet the minimum requirements, that's not going to be an issue at all. So for example, you are serving way over the minimum and you need to decrease it further, that's going to be a lot easier. If it's below the minimum, you need to provide a strong justification for that. And, it has to go through the approval process, and we can take a look at that. Same with program hours. You can make, because even if we don't approve it, I think it helps for us to know how many of our grantees would like to amend their program hours. So I would like you to go ahead and submit that if that is your request to be able to do that. Because again, in this learning period, that helps us to say we had, let's just say 25% of our grantees requesting to reduce their program hours. That will be an important point, and that will help us to determine how we should respond as we continue to learn with you and what is feasible, as well as while also trying to align with best practices. So The amendment form will allow you to make the request. That will be reviewed by our grantee and our leadership team, and determinations will be made, either approved or not approved with our rationale. The other thing that you will be able to change there is if you need to change your budget at all. Now, you're not going to be able to change your overall total, but if you need to move funds from supplies to staffing or to contractual services, et cetera, you can go in there. Now, if the changes you want to make are within a 10% margin, you do not have to, and that's that for the budget, you don't have to request changes. But if it is beyond a 10% change in any particular line item, then you're going to do an amendment request. Just explain to us why you need to move from contractual services to staffing or whatever the changes are, and we can go in and approve that. Any questions about that? And once we have that amendment form and function ready in Cityspan, we'll provide additional instructions. You can always jump onto Learn24 office hours that are happening twice a week. You can reach out to your grants management specialist who can assist if there's any clarification needed on how to submit that, but that will be coming for any additional changes. So right now, if you need to add a site, send an email to learn24data@dc.gov. Otherwise, any additional requested changes you can submit through an amendment request. And if those include requests to total number of youth or hours beyond the minimum, I still encourage you to submit them, because that helps us to track how our grantees are doing with that. And we don't have to wait till the end of the year to kind of make decisions on that and just say, oh, waiting to see how many didn't meet compliancy. And we could potentially approve those amendment requests within the year. Any questions?
This is Ronnie with WTEF.
Hi, Ronnie.
Hello. So we're gonna make some changes. So you're saying we have two schools to add, or two sites to add, which we've been taking attendance and all of that, but you're saying it won't be in the first quarter information?
That's correct, because there is set but it'll show up in your next quarter. If you retroactively go back and add the attendance, it will show up in not your second quarter, your third quarter. Your second report, but you're at the end of third quarter.
Okay, great. Thanks.
And we can always run reports for you. If you want to reach out to your grants management specialist and say, hey, what's my attendance looking like? Or what's my enrollment? We can run a report and let you know, so that you're not surprised when that quarter comes out and you're like, oh my gosh, we didn't have those successfully entered, and that's where we will also be working with you to say, hey, you're still showing low attendance or low enrollment across the month, so that we can make sure that now that we have these reports, we can make sure to get you to where, to represent your actual work when those reports come out.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, of course. I see Heather. Hand up, Heather.
Hi, I had a question about whether we should use the amendment area also. We're going to increase the number of hours that we provide services daily from 2 to 2.5. Would we use that amendment area also to request that change?
Yeah, because what's going to happen is, in order for everything that is in the program sites has to be changed, right? Like, you won't even be able to record attendance for that additional half an hour or whatever if it's not in there. So that's, yes, you will have to request it so that then it can be unlocked and then you can make the change. So that is the process for unlocking forms to make changes.
Okay.
And it'll be pretty simple. You can, that's not a difficult one to, approve. We're never going to, reject additional hours or services. So we'll approve that, unlock the form, you'll go in and make the adjustment, and then it'll roll over into your data management system so that your attendance is recording those additional hours.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep, of course. I want to take a look real quick at the rest of this progress report down here. Now, this is just a demo that somebody went in and submitted real quick to make sure it was working. So you don't see the objectives laid out here, but you're going to see the objectives in your progress report from your grant application. And all of your statuses are going to probably be in progress at this point. And even at the end of the year, you may find that you have not met some of those things. That's okay. These are goals to achieve, and these are 3-year grants. So don't be afraid of saying in progress in these status reports. Of course, if you complete a goal, that's great, but we want our goals to be, robust goals. And so it is quite okay that the status is in progress. So I just want to point that out. If you've completed all your goals, then what's the point of having programming, right? We need to create new objectives. So in progress works just fine. And then down here, this is where you get a chance to tell us, here's some progress that we've made. Here are areas that where we're not on track. And, if you want to provide any rationale, successes and challenges that you're facing, and then to describe any improvements or promising practices. And if you're a previous grantee, these are some of the questions that we asked in our previous progress reports. So this should not be anything new to you, but it does allow you to kind of explain anything up here. So you're like, well, these are the reasons, these are the challenges we faced with getting our attendance in, and why it demonstrates that we're not on track, but this is what we're doing to resolve that. So you can explain down here really more of the content towards the number or the quality behind the quantitative. So then what you'll do is you'll go, once you're done here, you're going to go up, you'll have a submit button. Because this one's already submitted, you don't see that, but you're going to hit submit, and then you're going to go back to the progress reports tab, and you're going to go into the progress report sign off, very similar to your grant agreement where you hit submit on the forms, but then you had to sign off. So once you go in there and you sign your signature, then it's going to come to us. And then your grant manager is going to go in. They're going to review your progress report and all of the commentary that was included in the open-ended questions, and then they're going to provide feedback to you. They'll check the executive reports that we run to see if any changes have been made since then. So if you say we've since put in our attendance, we'll go and look at that and we'll say, yes, we see attendance up through this date. Thank you very much. Or we still don't see attendance, or we still only see 30 of the 50 students that you are proposed to serve. You might want to work on recruitment, or these students to be served in the summer, et cetera. So this will, the notes section of our response and then we're going to follow up with an email with it, and we'll continue so that you don't have to go into Cityspan, but you will receive this progress report notice through an automated email, and then we'll continue to communicate with you through email around where you are and supporting you to get there. So just wanted to talk through the additional steps of this, and that's where we will continue to work with you to meet any areas of incompliance. Any questions? Awesome. So look for we will notify you when that amendment comes out. Again, early next week, hopefully, as well as the changes in the progress report that's going to show your proposed number and hours and actual numbers and hours by site, which is going to be a lot more clear. I want to open it up to any questions that you have in general at this point. We have about another 10 minutes. And so if you have any questions about anything that we can be helpful with, or just comments, thoughts, ideas, Heather. Heather, was your hand up from before, or do you have another question?
So sorry, that was, my hand was still up from before.
No problem at all. Okay, Beth.
Hi, so I think I'm okay. I you mentioned earlier about the FERPA release, so it's not necessarily about any of this reporting. The last time I was on a meeting, I thought the FERPA releases were more if we wanted to get the data ourselves. Are you saying if you don't have the FERPA report, you Learn24 won't get the information either?
Yeah, so it's, yes, thank you for the question, because I should clarify. As part of the grant, we do ask that all enrollment forms include a FERPA waiver. So, because yes, we need the FERPA waiver in order to obtain the data that is essential for us to report to our stakeholders in general on how we're using government funding. And they want to know what particular students we're serving. So the FERPA form is required to be asked of all of your parents. And you need to indicate on your student profiles that you have a FERPA waiver or not. Now, the distinction is if you want to be able to see the data, not aggregate, you'll see the aggregate data in your progress report, the percentage of students that are students with disabilities, for example. But if you want to see each individual student's data, like this student has a disability and this is the disability and this is their attendance, and that, in order for you to see your individual student data, you have to upload the FERPA waiver to the student profile. That's the distinction. That is not required.
Yep,
Yeah,
that's
that
what
is
I was
not
trying
required.
to clarify. Yeah, that's what I was trying to clarify. We don't, okay. Yep.
Yep. You just need to check the box that it's on file. Now we will be doing compliancy checks in which we'll say, hey, can you send us your FERPA waivers for students with the last name L through N, for example, and you'll send them over and then we'll check them against your student profiles to make sure or when we're on a site visit, we may ask to see those just to make sure that those FERPA waivers are indeed being collected as part of compliancy and just safety and federal regulations. But you just need to click whether you have it for the sake of us being able to obtain the data.
Thank you. Okay.
Yep, of course. Deidre.
Hi, I have a question about sites. We are a year-round grantee, but the after-school program is not only site listed currently. So do I need to request the site be added for summer school for this specific date, that time period? Because it seems like it needs to be a separate site.
Yes, you will add a site. So you'll want to request the addition of a site. You can wait. If you can do that now through emailing learn24data@dc.gov, or you can wait until, since it's not till the summer, you can wait until later and just do that through an amendment request form. And at that time, we'll unlock that form and you'll be able to go in and add the summer site, because I know some of you don't know what your summer sites are yet if you're waiting and trying to work with DCPS, for example. So yeah, you can do that later.
Okay, thank you.
And to that question, Deidre, that's a great question, because sometimes I know that in the application process, grantees said, we think, we don't know what our summer site is. So should we just put something generic? And we did say that was fine, like DCPS summer school site. And once you know what the official site is, we can also go in and unlock it so that you can make those changes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Of course. All right. Heather has a question.
I'm sorry, I don't know how to lower my hand.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. Okay. It's okay. Let me see if I can do it for you. Well, maybe not.
The raise icon again?
Oh, I got it. I think you just go in and the three buttons in the right-hand corner of your screen is where you then say lower.
Thank you.
At least that's how I did it. Vancia, do you have another question?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, two quick questions. One is about, I know that you mentioned that one of the amendment requests could be about moving the money around inside of that total budget. I had a question about stipends. It was a very large part of our grant proposal. And like as student incentive, student attendance, but there's like a fine line somewhere that made it a little bit confusing about whether or not that money can be used for student stipends. So I just wanted to get clarity on if grant money can be used for like student attendance incentives, which may come in the form of stipends. That's the first question. I'll pause.
Yes, that is allowed up to $25 per student per month. As far as the value of the stipend.
Okay, up to $25 per student per month. Got it. I will figure out the math. And then thank you for that. Second question I have is about the SAO pretests. I know that that is a that's one of the requirements. The like consent form is one of the requirements, but we aren't given the like we don't have access to who actually took it. We tried to like say take a screenshot to show us that you've completed it, but like that only worked for some of the students. Is there a way for us to access who has and who has not completed that test?
Yeah, well, I know that we can, and we can send you a report. Mark, do you know from your experience, are the grantees able to also run a SAO report or only us?
I'm not 100% sure if they can. Ideally, they should if they're going to say why or reports. But at bare minimum, if you go to SAOY in the left panel and you have youth whose parents have verified consent for SAOY, you've enrolled in the programs, submitted at least 1 day of attendance, then those SAOY links will generate, and you'll be able to see columns on that page of SAOY that show when they completed the survey or if they have not completed the survey. So you'll be able to see a whole list of all the youth regardless of the report, but you can certainly try to generate a report by clicking on the report button.
Otherwise, we also will be following up. That's one of the things we'll be following up with you on is whether the SAOY were completed or not and giving you an update on that, just so that we can, we're going to provide a status report on all of the different compliancy issues and where you're doing well and where we need to, offer additional support. So SAO will be included in that as well. RJ.
Hi again.
Hello.
Is there a specific FERPA form that you guys want, or is it something that we just create saying that the parents release or give authorization to release their student demographic information?
Yeah, if one of the grants management specialists can go and grab the link to the grantee guidebook, it's also online on the Learn24 website. There's lots of great links there, but the grantee guidebook is one of them. And there is a template for the FERPA waiver as well as the SAOY waiver because parents need to provide those consents. Yes, we do provide, kind of a template that you can use.
Okay, so it's not something that we can just make it. All right, got it. So if you
it
can
needs to
provide
have,
that.
yes, it needs to have specific language. Around the parents' rights. So you can adapt it, including your program's information, but there's language that you'll want to include within there. And we encourage, maybe too late at this point, but we really ask you to include it in your enrollment forms, because then you're not having to try to go back and collect forms because it's hard to get forms back. We all know that it's hard to get forms. So that's just a way to make it easier going forward.
Oh, I see the link. Thanks so much.
And yes, thank you for the question about the Spanish version. We are looking to get the waivers translated. So thank you for bringing that up. I am surprised that we didn't already have that. And I'm just really glad someone brought that up. We're going to, so if there's any other languages that it's needed in, please let your grant management specialist know, because we will go ahead and get those translated. But the actual SAO, just as a reminder, when the surveys, you can go in for the students, they can select the language, and there's a whole list of languages that they're already translated in. But for the FERPA forms and the SAO consents for the parents, we definitely want to make sure that we provide those in the languages that you need as well. And we're at 3:02, so anybody needs to jump off, please do, but I can stay on to answer any additional questions that folks may have. Vancia, do you have another question? Okay, go right ahead.
I do have another question.
Thank you for them because listen, these questions are, I'm sure everybody enjoys hearing the answers to. So thank you for asking them.
Thank you for your patience in answering all the questions. So it was really helpful for you to share not to deactivate students, because students have started out and were very active in the beginning, and then they stopped coming or expressed that like they have a conflict and aren't able to come. We thought that we should be like taking them out of the system, because then it impacts attendance, like the overall attendance, because if all of those students are enrolled, it like decreases the percentage of what weekly attendance looks like. So
good
question. So thank you for the clarification, but I think it will be a barrier or tricky for people, and that's probably why they might have been taking students out. Not as a like so that we look better than we are, but as like if we know these students aren't going to continue coming because they've expressed that they're no longer able to be a part of the program. I just want to throw that out there and name it so that I don't know if that can be taken into consideration as you all are looking kind of at that overall attendance, or if there's something we should do differently to flag students who we know have become inactive. I'm not sure.
Yeah, so I want to make sure, because I don't think you want to deactivate. I mean, let me clarify. What it says, we don't want to remove sites, right? Because then when you remove that, then all the students that were enrolled there are gone from that programming. But I don't think that you want to not deactivate, because attendance should still be recorded even if they're not active. So let me make sure with Cityspan, because when you deactivate a student, I don't think their attendance goes away for the program. But I want to clarify that. I want to make certain that that's not the case. So you can still, I want you to be able to go in and deactivate so that they're not on the list, and it shouldn't be counting towards your average weekly attendance then. But for the time that they were there, they are included in attendance. I'm pretty sure that's how the system works, but we'll clarify that and send an email out.
Okay. So for now, it sounds like don't delete, but potentially deactivate, which is the difference. Like don't just remove the student, but there is a way to deactivate those students and still have their attendance count for when they did attend.
Correct. And if that's not how it's set up in Cityspan, I'm going to ask them to make sure that it's set up that way, because that's how it should be. And I'm pretty sure that's how it is set up. So just making the student inactive. So they'll be reported for the time frame that they were there, but not contributing towards attendance, average weekly attendance rates for once they're inactive. Any other questions? I want to thank everyone for being so patient. I know that it's frustrating as we're building this new system. We're trying to make it easier for everyone, but as we're waiting, it can be difficult and it can be frustrating. And so I just really appreciate your patience. You know, that we offer grace to each other as we work through this together as partners in this work, just as we're wanting to support you to continuously improve, that you know that we're working to continuously improve as well. And your feedback in that is always very valuable. Yes, Vancia.
So who should we, I guess it's a twofold question. It's about the purchase order. We don't have ours yet. It's February, so it's tricky. Is that normal? Like, is this an issue that other people are like other organizations are experiencing? And what can we do on our end to help the process along?
So you have a grant agreement executed. That should not be the issue. The requisition should have been being put in. Who's your grants management specialist?
Karita.
Okay, so I will check with Karita after this, because I'm not sure what the holdup is, and it's individual. Other than that, I can say our resource allocation analyst resigned in December. That has been, if you need to sign off, please do. That has been a caused a delay in our processing. Our receiver then became our approver, and then she wasn't able to do both, so then it got delayed again, and so they had to be resubmitted. And so I'm hoping that that is the only reason that the PO. But then on the other end, and I'm just being transparent because I think that that's the best thing to be able to do in these situations, is the person on the this end resigned as well. So our financial systems struggle, and that it is really an unfortunate situation we need to figure out across the district. So now they're having to train someone to work with us, and the staff turnovers is really causing a delay in us being able to receive, approve, and enable the various processes that have to go back and forth across agencies to get that PO established. But I'm gonna check with Karita afterwards to see what the update is, and so that we can loop back and let you know. And for anyone that is in that same situation, we're doing everything we can on our end. So much of it is out of our control, and all I can do is again be transparent and apologetic. We hate that this is happening, and we hope to see improvements in this in the future. But right now, yeah, we're in a not so fortunate situation. We're trying to get these completed.
Thank you for that transparency. Grace has to be given across the board. So as long as there is mutual grace given, here we are. So I appreciate that.
And well, I appreciate your response as well, Vancia. Any other questions? Okay, I'm going to wait until 3:10, and then we'll go ahead and sign out. Again, thank you everyone who was able to be here today. If you have additional questions, please reach out to your grants management specialist. I appreciate the questions. They help us as well as everyone who's listening. Thank you, Simon. Okay, well, have a wonderful afternoon, everyone. We'll see you soon.